I'm more comfortable being called Yayet, that's my nickname, but my full name is Janet Menjola Lopez. I'm a mother of three, age 21, 18, and 15. They're all boys. And very proud that they are now growing up and independently and very funny. Besides being a mother, I am also a public servant. I've been with the office, this government office, for a little over 25 years. But my role as a mother doesn't stop even when I'm at work. So just like many mothers out there, many working moms, I too carry the same roles, the same concerns in my thoughts, back in my thoughts, even while at work. As a government worker, as a public servant, I sometimes carry different hats, all at the same time. As I head the operations or the office operations, therefore I am very much into managing the day-to-day tasks of the different units of the office. But at the same time, I'm also tasked to coordinate with the different agencies, with different government agencies, private sector, because that's part of my job. So I do a lot of coordination, I do a lot of facilitation. Apart from that, I also wear a hat of a researcher because part of the mandate of my office is policy work. So that means at some point in time, I would be out in the fields doing monitoring of projects, doing action research. So I tend to do a lot of interactions with people, with communities, with families. But what really strikes me most is when I interact with women and mothers in the field. Being a mother to them gives me so much joy and pride and strength. And it keeps me going no matter what life throws at me, because I know I have a role to play. I have kids. I am a mother. And I also believe that being a mother, being a woman, I am really made wonderfully by our Creator. Just like any woman, just like any mother, we are wired differently. We are made so resilient that we can do many at the same time. So what gives me joy is that I am gifted by my Creator with so much resilience and strength, because I have to carry on my role as a mother and watching my children grow, nurturing them since they were in infancy stage to when they are toddlers, they run everywhere, the beautiful mess that they do around the house. It gives me so much joy to be able to care for them, to nurture them, and to watch them grow into the persons that they're becoming now as young, the eldest at least as a young adult, and grown-up boys. Honestly, it's a lot for me. At first, I was really overwhelmed during the pandemic. It was overwhelming because one, it was for the first time, it was beyond expectations. Normally, in my job, I am used to do planning, to organize, to anticipate. But what happened during the pandemic was way, way above board, meaning it wasn't within what we could expect could happen. It evolved into something worse than we imagined or what we planned for. So it was really overwhelming for me at the start. And it was so difficult to juggle between having to work at home. You are there, unlike in the past, when you're outside the home, you're really at work. I mean, although, again, as I said earlier, your role as a mother does not end when you start work. It's still there. It remains in your thoughts. But there's a difference in the environment when you're in the office, when you're in the field, and when you're at home. So when you're at home, you can really concentrate, like you give time to your husband, to play your role as a wife, as a mother to your kids, as a housekeeper. But this time, suddenly, it all emerged all in one environment, all in one space. You have to be the worker in the same space, the wife, the mother, the housekeeper. It was a bit of an adjustment, also because we are used to working face-to-face. We are used to gathering with relatives, with families during weekends after work. That's a kind of a way to reconnect and de-stress at the end of a long week usually. But during the pandemic, these were all shattered. Diba? We got disconnected, and it was so frustrating at the start. But thank God for creating a masterpiece called Women, because as I said, we discovered that we are more resilient, so that eventually, gradually, I was able to adapt to the change. And there was a point when I said that enough of the grieving for what has happened, enough for feeling low, feeling disappointed for not being able to be with my family, meaning my parents also, my relatives, with friends, face to face. Enough of thinking about it's so difficult to be managing people when we are so spread out. They're also in their homes. And make a decision. I am a woman, I am a mother, I am a friend, I am a daughter, I am a public servant, and I have a role to play. So at that point, when I decided, and when I made a decision that I need to adopt, to adjust, and to be more flexible, that's when things really changed. So I started capacitating myself to be able to learn fast technology, to be able to look for what are the alternatives open for me so that I can remain to be efficient. At the same time, I had to learn fast to also cope with my growing children. Eventually, I saw light that what seemed to be a very desperate or disappointing circumstance at the start of the pandemic turned out to become positive in terms of relationships, reconnecting via the internet, that there's still a way to reconnect, there's still a way to be able to guide your children, and better because this time you can now balance. Your presence is still felt inside the home, but then you can also do some work online. Even again, I'd like to thank the Lord that gift of resilience, of strength, of women, and I'm glad to be one. Of course, our men, our husbands, the men also have their own strengths, but I'd like to emphasize that as a woman, I have appreciated this gift that the Lord has given me. So as I said earlier, I'd like to respond to that by way of explaining my experience. As again, as I've mentioned earlier, my persona, my lens as a woman and as a mother does not end when work begins. To me, work means outside, being at field. Even while at work, I am just so glad that I have this lens of that nurturing and caring mother still applied and integrated in my work. In 2009 and sometime again in 2011 and again in 2013 and 2014, I was blessed with this very challenging task of doing an action research for the Filipino community in BIMP Iaga. So Brunei, Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines is the ASEAN Growth Area. That's the subgrouping where I also act as the Philippine National Secretariat. In that assignment, I was lucky to have been given the opportunity to really meet and engage and converse with Filipino families abroad, especially with Filipino women and working mothers, and engaging with them, witnessing how they live their lives outside of the country, away from their families, really struck me most. It really hit my core. There were a lot of instances when I was interviewing women and mothers that I had to excuse myself to go to the bathroom and to just shed a tear, to cry and to pray. Because I listened to the stories, and when I was doing my research, listening to their stories, I was seeing faces of people, faces of mothers, faces of children left behind by their mothers. So today, I'd like to use this opportunity to rise and honor the many OFW women and especially OFW mothers. In that exposure, I saw that we have a lot to celebrate for women and mothers who had to bear being away from their children, from their husbands, from their families. to work abroad to give them a better life. It was coupled by sharing about mothers who had to endure a lot of emotional strains because they would miss the opportunity to be in moments of graduation, birthdays, personal milestones, even brokenheartedness of their children who are starting to have girlfriends or boyfriends. They're missing those moments. And they have emotional pains having to realize that they're missing out on that. And especially when they say that they are so much in pain when they see their children being brought to the hospital or being sick and they're not there as a mother to comfort them. That for me was very striking. They were sharing how their mothers suffered a lot without medical assistance, and they were sharing how in that very moment that they are just hearing the voice of their suffering mom or of their suffering dad or children ailing, and they can just hear their voice and can feel their pain. But they felt so helpless because they're so far away. Those moments, those stories really struck me most. Those moments when I was in the field doing that research, and I really felt the stories of OFW women and mothers, that I also realized that before I am a researcher, before I am a field worker, first I am a mother. And that strongly ignited in me my passion, and that really started in me that commitment to push for advocacies, to help in whatever way I can, help alleviate a little bit better, to make their lives a little bit better, to make the lives of our OFW women, especially OFW mothers, a little bit better each day in any possible way I can. To our women and mothers out there, especially, as I said, especially those outside and who are working far away from their families, from their children, I honor you. I rise today, I stand here, and I'd like to lend a voice to all of you and appreciate the many sacrifices that you have been doing until now, and the selfless love and unconditional sacrifices that you are doing for your family and for your children. I totally appreciate you, and stand firm because you know who you are as a woman created by God with so much strength and dignity, and with such resilience to be able to carry all of this with God's grace. So that's why when I heard about this homegrown local initiative of a telemedicine application that can be accessible worldwide, wherever you are, I was really hopeful. I felt so glad. I was jumping with joy to see that finally here we now have something like this to ease a little bit the emotional burden of our working moms and working women abroad, because now they can access, they can see their families or relatives, they can now extend medical care to them through this application. And this was something that was very remote in the past, but now it is already in our hands. It is now available, accessible. They can now be virtually present during those trying moments of sickness of any member of the family, virtually through the application. And that's why I'm very excited. I am full of hope that this can just be the first step. Who knows, in the future, this can evolve into something that we have not even imagined today. And it can solve and can address a lot of our concerns as working moms and women away from our families. I would like to leave a final note of encouragement. This has been my anchor verse from the very start, so I hope you can resonate with this. Proverbs 31:25 says, "She is clothed with strength and dignity. She laughs without fear of the future."